All right. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Arian Seghetti, here with Simulate, and today we're going to be doing a live demo of ransomware, how to test for ransomware, how to effectively understand what do you do against ransomware. So I'm going to put in the announcements here. I'll just put a little bit our website here if you'd like to go to that, as well as my email address. If you have any questions for me at any point in time, let's go ahead. It's displaying now. I'm not sure exactly where on your screen it's displaying, but I know that people on YouTube always say up in the corner, right down here, click that link or click down here to subscribe. So we're going to go with that model. All right. So a little bit about today. Like I said, we're going to do just a few handful PowerPoints just to get you a little bit familiar with Simulate as a company. What do we solve? What are we doing, for our customers? Where's the use cases? Again, there are pain points out there. How can we help? Just a few. That's it. The vast majority of this is going to be in the actual demo itself. So when we go through that demo, or at any point in time, really go ahead and ask any questions over here in the chat somewhere. Just go ahead and ask a question. I will stop periodically a few different times to look for questions. If it's a question that is, not quite within what we're talking about, I'll answer that briefly, and then I'll try to get back to it at the end if it takes further explanation. All right, go ahead and stop displaying my announcement, and let's go ahead and share out my screen, and we will get this going. All right, let's go ahead and share here, and let's get there. All right. Let's see here. Okay, so again, my name is Arian Seghetti. I'm a Senior Solutions Architect here at Simulate. That's my email address on there. If you have any questions, please contact me. I will get you an answer as soon as I possibly can, or get you in contact with the right people. So at Simulate, we are an extended security posture management solution. We are a SaaS-based solution that allows you to remove the assumptions of your cybersecurity tool sets. Can they stop these? Are we crossing our fingers? We're updated, right? Know your actual cyber risk and your cyber strengths and be able to prove your security. Do all of this out of a SaaS-based platform. So really quickly here, what are we doing, right? There are security business challenges. There's challenges out there, right? Rationalizing your cybersecurity spend. This is a challenge that we all have. Every single organization itself has to spend a particular amount of money to protect themselves, right? So how are you rationalizing that security spend? Are you making sure that it is good? Some things, how do I ensure we are protected against ransomware, right? Can I better understand vulnerability prioritization? All of these different things that we align to and we allow you to ask and solve for, right? We provide evidence-driven assessments that's going to give you actual real data and not just crossing your fingers. Okay, let's see here. So how do we do this, right? As we break it down like this. We are a security validation platform. Now we're extended security because we cover the entire full kill chain. No other company out there allows you to test from the external attacker's perspective, the internal attacker, what that looks like, cloud resources, hybrid, different applications, different containers, Kubernetes, firewalls, you name it, right? We're out there, web application firewalls. We allow you to understand your organizational risk from end to end. Now we do this with two different ways, right? Purple teaming scenarios and red teaming scenarios. So we provide you the capability in our platform, and we'll see this in a minute now, to be able to really launch any assessment. Now today, we're going to be looking at security efficacy against ransomware. We're going to walk you through multiple ways that Simulate allows you to test ransomware scenarios in your environment. All right, let's go ahead and I'm going to switch over. And this here is our platform. Before I get into our platform, I'm going to see if there's any questions out there. All right. Was a take on, so someone asked, I thought the name was a take on Simulate. It actually is, right? Simulate is cyber simulations. right? So we actually simulating real cyber attacks in your environment, in production, in dev test, wherever you want to see this. So we give you that capability to be able to simulate a real world attack, exactly how it's supposed to be, exactly how an attacker does it in your actual environment, completely safe. So great question, thank you. And simulate, however you want to say it, is fine. But it's cyber simulations combined and is simulate. So what do we see here? This here is our dashboard, right? This is where you will log in. This is where you're going to go ahead and run assessments. This is where you're going to get your reports. You set up your integrations, manage your users. But really, this is your dashboard to come to understand where are we, how are we doing. Now, a little bit about us, really quick, right? If I take this data exfiltration one, and I look at that, that assessment gives you a 96 out of 100. Now, this is one of my kids. I'm super happy that this was the grade that they got on their score. It's usually about 30 points higher than I used to get on my test scores. But in the simulate language, a high number is equivalent to a high risk. So we want you to be able to run this continuously every day if need be, every week, every month, whatever meets your company's needs to reduce that risk. High number, high risk. Low number, low risk, right? That's 0 out of 100, or maybe this one over here, this 3 out of 100, right? The lower the number, the lower the risk to your organization. Run that assessment. Now, I told you we do go across the entire full kill chain. So we provide you modules to be able to assess across that entire kill chain, one section at a time. Or, as you can see over here, our full kill chains, it actually allows you to set up one that's going to go across the entire section there, right? So both individual and then combined scenarios themselves. All right. So moving right along here, again, I talked to you, this is a SaaS-based environment. So how do we do this? All right, so let's start with the how. So first and foremost is we are agent-based as well as agentless. Now you might be asking yourself, Arian, how do you do both agent-based and agentless? Well, it depends on the type of assessment you're trying to run. I'm going to walk you through a couple of those different ones, right? But for that are going to be more agent-based. But for things that are agentless, such as maybe a web application firewall assessment, what we provide you the capability to do is take your websites that you would validate, that you own, and send things like command injections or cross-site scripting attacks out there. Now, again, this is safely done. So we might be looking at, 5 injections or 10 or 6,000 or 10,000, right? So scale is not a problem for Simulate. We scale very easily, and we're able to then go ahead and provide you tons and tons of capabilities among all these different areas here. Okay, so why you came today, right? Today we're talking about ransomware. How do you know if your endpoint controls or your firewalls or your email security today can identify a ransomware attack, right? Maybe that's the signature of a ransomware attack. Maybe it's the behavior of a ransomware attack. Maybe it's both. So let's go ahead and walk us through that. So we have 3 different ways, 3 primary ways. There's a lot of different ways in here to do this, but we're going to start off with our scenarios. Now, the few scenarios that we're actually going to walk through here are email gateway, web gateway, endpoint, and if there's time, we're going to do immediate threats. I believe there'll be time. So I got about 21 minutes left. We'll absolutely make some good time. So first things first, we're going to start with the most common delivery method, right? So what we're looking at is email. Now, Simulate, the way that it's going to evaluate you to see, can your email security stop ransomware? Well, we're taking live, real, and safe ways of doing this. So we're going to deliver ransomware emails to you. Now, how we do this is very important. You'd set up, you'd be, logging into your tenant here. You're going to choose this particular template itself. I'm going to use this template. I'm going to send, as you can see over here, nearly, and it's hard to see there, nearly 2,000 emails with known ransomware. I'll choose my target, and then I launch it. Now, generally, what we say is let's set up, a dummy account or a service account that is specifically for testing your email security efficacy, right? Does your email security provider stop these 2,000 attacks. Which ones do they stop? Which ones do they allow through, right? What is the danger and the criticality of each one of those? And we're going to take a look at that in a moment. So it's very easy to do. You pick your template, what you're going to do, where, right? Here's that email address. I'm not going to press launch. I don't want nearly 2,000 emails going to my demo account, but that's how you would do it, right? And then you can schedule these, right? You can do them on demand. Right now, we can launch this. And as you can see, this will take about 40 minutes or so. You can schedule these to run every day. You could schedule these to run before, and you can create multiple templates, one before change control, one after change control, right? Let's baseline before. What does our policy look like? Did we make a change that actually increased the risk, right? Did we add risk to our environment, or did we reduce the risk? And if we reduce the risk, let's call that out, right? Let's let people know that security is doing their job. So very easy to do. Now, if you want to build your own, because you don't want to do maybe this one here, you say, you know what, I want something very specific to test out something very specific here. So we'll say this is our live BrightTalk example. I'm going to build a template right now. The template we're building, I'm going to send to Windows systems. I'm going to say, let's do these 3 types. Actually, we'll just do, let me see, where's my ransomware here? Okay, here's some ransomware. And you know what I want to do is be very specific. And I want to say anything involving a some type of Excel or type of file type, right? So I'm only going to use these file types. If I wanted to, I could do other file types, including, right, if I did we'll say some doc file types as well, an executable, whatever it wants. But I only selected these ones, so we're being very specific. I want to see how we stand up against it. The next thing you know is I'm actually going to wrap those file types, my payload, into other file types now. I can do that or not, but you know what? Let's actually do it. We're only going to test the Excel file types, but you know what? Let's do it as file within file. So again, we're still sticking with the Excel file type. Next thing you know is I'm going to put in some embedded code, and that's it, right? And maybe a couple of known exploits. So what I just did was I built out a template that's incredibly fast. And as you can see here, I'm actually going to send about 114 emails. So that template, let's go ahead and save that. You can see right here, that is now available. I can go ahead and launch that as we speak. So I can edit it some more, I can delete it, I can duplicate that and add to it if I want, right? However I want. So what I just did was I was able to, now I'm going to evaluate, I'm going to assess. Let's go and see what that looks like. So I send those emails, and let's go ahead and look at our report. So I sent the emails. Now again, we're talking about ransomware. So in this case, I'm evaluating ransomware. Now, as you can see here, actually, let me go back one step so you can see a little bit of it, is in this case, I was 99% successful in sending those emails and those emails landing in your inbox. Now, we take care of all of the cleanup. We will clean up everything. You don't have to worry about that. What we're showing you here is of 1,429 that were delivered, 1,420 or sent, 1,427 were delivered. Excuse me one sec. Good time. If there's any questions, again, I'll reiterate, go ahead and add them into the up there or down there, wherever it ends up being. I'll answer those questions live where I can. So this is what we sent, and this is what was delivered. Now, specifically, you can get into the very specifics of this here. You can see every one of these ones that were here in red were actually delivered, right? Now, if I wanted to see blocked, you can see 2 were blocked, right? Now, I can look and see that specifically this one here, and this is what it is, right? Why was it blocked, things like that. I can also go back and see what penetrated. So I can look and see, is there anything specific to this file type? Now, again, this isn't that XLS like I was saying, but we might, give you different filters that you can add, different things that you can add in there, the hashes themselves. So very comprehensive when it comes to the amount that you can actually send and what's actually stopped there. All right, let me see if there's any questions. Go ahead and check over here. Nope, no questions at the time. Okay, let's move on. All right, so that what we just did was we were able to evaluate your email security. Is it effective at stopping known ransomwares? All right, let's go ahead and go to the next one here. Let's go to Web Gateway, and we're going to do something very similar. Like I told you, is you have a template, then you have what you want to do, right? Your target, and where you want to launch it. Something very similar. So you could come in here and I could say, all right, let me get some ransomware, right? So I'm going to select all those file types. There's 61 that are selected right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to evaluate whether your web gateway or your firewall or your proxy can actually identify known malicious file types, known malicious ransomware file types, right? Are you blocking them? Are you stopping them? Are you alerting on them? Are you eventing on them, right? We're going to be able to do that for you to be able to consistently test and evaluate against that. Excuse me. Next thing you do is I can select different daily malicious URL feeds, other ones with command and control around ransomware. And now I create that template and I can again launch it. All right, very simple, very easy, right? Same kind of a level of reporting here. If I go into those reports themselves, I'm going to be able to go ahead and look at it, and I'm going to go ahead and be able to go ahead and look at either some command and control traffic, my file types here, right? I can go again, go to my ransomware, what actually got through, right? So now I can compare and contrast this in my SIEM or in my firewall or my proxy, right? What actually got through, right? Did you identify it? Was this a misconfiguration in your policy? Was this a did somebody turn off SSL decrypt? Something along those lines, right? So you're going to be able to do that. Okay. Lastly here is endpoint security. So now we're going to take a different approach, right? Up until this point, we've been saying, all right, here are known ransomware signatures, here's file types, here's URLs. Are you able to identify these, right? It's really about, are you able to identify and block them? I'm going to switch it up on you. At the click of a button here, I've got my ransomware behavior base and my total ransomware with files and other things. What I'm talking about doing here is actually creating a ransomware behavior. So you have that EDR, that AV, can identify the behavioral steps to ransomware. Now, what does that look like for Simulate? How do we do this safely, you might be asking? You absolutely can run this in production. You absolutely can run this in dev, test, wherever it be, right? What we're going to do is we're going to evaluate, can I actually, first of all, identify and stop the real behavioral ransomware. So this is every step in a ransomware behavior. Now let's look and see what that looks like. All right, we'll click and choose Windows here. Now you have the opportunities to start making, wizard-driven suggestions. So how am I going to deliver that payload? Right now, as I talked about very early, is we let you allow you to understand at every point in that way. Right. So in this case, we're saying at the endpoint, I'm going to deliver this over PowerShell Stage or Downloader. Right. And now these here being the MITRE techniques and sub techniques, and these will pop up, and you can read about these and how attackers are utilizing it. Let's go back. Let's go ahead and obfuscate this one. Right. So we're packing it. We're making sure that it's not the same one as every single time, right? Because attackers don't really do that. We're then going to go ahead and pick how we want to do this, right? What is the execution method? Now I'm going to look for, again, since I chose PowerShell, I don't have to, but I'll show some PowerShell ones here, right? So we'll do PowerShell DLL inject, a .NET injection, a reflective, and a remote reflective inject. Again, what we're doing is we're selecting different ways to be able to run an assessment. Now, what do we want to do? Let's go ahead and pick ransomware. And now we're going to take these ransomware behaviors. So, Arian, how do I do this safely in my environment? I am concerned that you might encrypt my real data and I won't get it back. Great question. Great question, Arian. Thanks for asking, Arian. So in reality is what we do is we create a folder and we create files on that host system that agent is sitting on. We talked about agents early often. early on, right? It's sitting on there. And again, don't need a lot of agents, maybe a handful of agents across your entire network, not a lot. So what we're looking at doing here is we're going to create that folder. We're going to create those files. Your EDR or AV is monitoring that folder and files as soon as we create it. That folder and files is not whitelisted. This is not us being sneaky. This is you having a new folder and new files created. And now we're going to attack it. It's about 50 files, different file types. So we're now going to try to do a remote key, or another remote key. We'll do a fixed key, maybe, let's see, command and control. There's one here. Yeah, there we go, overwrite, and a custom encryption. So what I did is I just made these selections. Now you can, again, this is part of that template building. If I want to, I can also test my AV to see, can it identify different, let's see here, different file types written to disk. We'll just select them all. And what we just did is we just created 11 scenarios. Now, if you remember before, and I'll show you in a moment, we have a out of the box 300. We have an out of the box 400. Just depends on what you want to look at, right? And so you can see here, I'm going to look at 5 different malware files or ransomware files to see, can my AV actually identify those being written to disk? Now, again, we clean up all of this here for you. So once we run that, we launch it right over here. We launch it, it's run. Let's go to an actual report. So now we have to understand, what did it actually do, right? Which steps actually stopped it? So as you can see, this one here, right? This would be a different assessment where we ran 264. 43 of them were actually executed, meaning executed completely from the time we kicked it off all the way to us being able to encrypt those file types that we created. So let's go ahead and look at some of those there. So this one here, actually, let me break out a little bit more time frame so you can see a few more here. Click there. So we have a smattering of these where some of them were incomplete. Incomplete mean from the simulate perspective, we tried to go ahead and do those, and we were unsuccessful at some point in that chain. Let's go ahead and look at this one. I believe this one actually was the first step. Yep. So on the very first step, we were unsuccessful. We were stopped. So we're going to record that, right? We're going to record what we tried to do, where it stopped us. If you have an integration, and let's go ahead and look at that. So in this case, I think this one is, yep, Envision. So what we're going to do is we're going to query your EDR and your SIM or your SIM, or both of those. We're going to pull that data back to say, did they identify it? Now you can see this one executed completely, but it did have an event. It did have an alert. So what we'll see here is this one actually was able to do it in 4 steps. This was a particular kind, right, that was actually done. Now, if we look at specifically, right, we can look at how to detect for us. Maybe there's a different Windows event. You can do the actual MITRE ATT&CK technique. And then specifically, as we query, we're also going to be looking at the different requests that we query, right? So this is what we asked. This is what they told us, right? If I go look at it, here's the raw data itself. I can go find in there the alert ID. I can then go look that up into the specific the specific policy itself to see why did that happen. So what you've just done, right, is be able to do this as a ransomware attack, right, specifically to an endpoint. Now, what I can do here with these is I can set these up to run, and as you're adding new endpoint attacks and things like that, you can add these and continuously run these. How good is me stopping ransomware specifically on the endpoint? All right, let's see if there's any questions here. All right, no questions out there. So what we're looking at here, again, right, this one was the endpoint. We looked at email gateway, we looked at web gateway. So these are different points in the kill chain itself. Now we have capabilities to run 2 other types. I think we have time, quick amount of time. All right. We also have what's called immediate threats. Now, immediate threats themselves is a threat intelligence feed that allows you to test some of the newest attacks that are out there in your environment, right? Can you detect the signature of this attack? So let's go ahead and we'll do a ransomware as just a general, right? So in this case, we have 248 different types of ransomware out there. Now I can test multiple types of ransomware, the signature of it itself, right? Let's look at this one here, the new Nokoyawa ransomware. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be able to test in that particular environment, whichever environment I set it up for. And what I'm looking at doing is, does my current security controls actually identify that particular signature from that attack group? They sent out a new ransomware. We update this nearly every day, sometimes multiple times a day. So can you identify this before it hits you? Might be happening on the other side of the world was the first 0 day. Now we're pulling those things from different feeds. Our security research team is out there finding them. All right, let me see if there's any questions out there before I'm moving on. I understand we were talking about simulations of known of ransomware signature attacks. What about 0 day, new or unknown ransomware malware attacks within, which is a real threat? So this right here is exactly what that is, right? This, for that question itself is, we're seeing these within 24 to 48 hours of being out there. So if something happens, right, I'm sitting here near Atlanta, Georgia. If something is happening in Brazil and it's the first time it's seen it, we'll pull that into our feeds. We'll publish that every day. So we'll publish that. You'll be able to test for it right away. So you'll be able to sometimes get ahead of your actual endpoint protection or your email security or your firewalls. Test for it, take those mitigations based off of the indicators of compromise, right? So you can see all these IP addresses here. I can export this and put this into my dynamic block list. I can take these file types or these hashes, export those, put those into my block list, get it out there before it actually gets into my EDR response or my email or my firewall, right? So this here allows you to test for those near 0 day, right? For 0 day stuff, again, is if you want to build your own, we do have the capability to build out your own in what we call advanced scenarios. This is a full build your own attack. Don't really have enough time to go through that there, but it's got thousands of different executions, all different ways that we test for against the MITRE attack framework, NIST. But what we're doing here is we're providing you that capability to understand different ransomware scenarios. They don't change variations very much, right? What might change, command and control infrastructure. The techniques don't really change that much outside of again, we're looking at endpoint, the 400 plus that we have. There's very little changes between that. And when we do see a brand new one that no one's ever seen before, type of ransomware, we build that and populate that into our platform. So that does give you that capability. But if you ran, again, this endpoint security one here, you just click this one here, you're running 400 different ransomware evaluations. What you're going to do is be able to understand where, right? Here's this ransomware one, 406. What are the different techniques along MITRE techniques and tactics, procedures, and sub-techniques? Where are we allowing, right? Do we need those things? Can we get rid of some things? Okay, great question. And again, right, 0 days are hard, but at the same time, we give you all of the different ways, the different techniques are the most important thing on how to actually stop, right? So go ahead and I'll end my screen share here. All right, so I want to thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully that you saw the capabilities on how you can actually do these attacks, right? Knowing, you got your EDR, whether it's the whiz-bang features or whatever it is it configured correctly, right? We've got the MITRE Ingenuity attacks coming out soon, probably next month or two. All the different AV and EDR vendors are going to claim success and all these great things. Let's test it for real, right? Let's take those tests, evaluate it in your environment, right? That's the key, your environment. Everyone, thank you. Have a great day. go to simulate.com, reach out to me, and have a great day. Again, all right, bye-bye.